Welcome everybody. I just have to say thank you to all the new subscribers that have joined the channel recently. You guys have just been making the number increase, and really appreciate that, guys. You find my content worthy of your attention, so thank you very much. And also thank you guys for showing love to the previous two videos, being the Ultra Megatron and the Nemesis Prime videos. The numbers have been skyrocketing for those. Matter of fact, those two videos have been jockeying for first place as far as most recent view videos. So thank you guys again. So when we start looking at Ironhide here, I want to say that first off, he does overall the general shape, and especially the front of this, is selling the 1980s, van look, as opposed to his utilitarian vehicle. Which most people do know, this is basically just the Siege figure with some bits remolded, and then you have this top section that goes on top of it. Well, because of the way that this different front section opens, I had to turn his head sideways, because when you're trying to get this to line up to the roof, if it's facing frontward, it makes this gap even more egregious, which, there still is one there, but trust me guys, it was worse. The other nitpicky thing is this section right here is hopped up. Now, because again, it's using the Siege thing, the roof is hooked into these four little 5mm peg ports on the front, which is holding it down to the vehicle mode. But as you can see back here, like on him, there's nothing holding it down, so it just kind of, humps up like that. What I can't ignore is the side profile, because the only thing that even attempts to tie all these pieces together is this gold stripe, and I'm sorry to say, it doesn't cut it. Each one of these panel sections are a different color, so it doesn't have anything that can even fool your eye. Like, had this been blue, it might have hid the paneling a little bit different. And you could be saying, well, if there's a blue stripe, this part, like on the Siege, becomes the front part of his leg. Well, guys, we've had stuff on the front part of his leg before, and it wasn't terrible. So, if Toy Hacks comes out with some labels, hopefully they will, to kind of make this all blue, I'll probably be doing that. But other than that, like I said, the general shape is good. This and his actual rifle that he has, basically the weapon stores inside of his vehicle mode. So overall, despite its problems, I had really hoped that Ironhide would be the standout, and to see it not quite get to where I'd hoped it'd be is a little disappointing. So if I was to ask you guys to find what the discrepancy between these two would be, aside from the obvious ones, what do you think it would be? Well, if you guessed size, you'd actually be right. Because one of the biggest giveaways here is the fact that his hood is a lot wider than his Earthrise one. And it's not only that, the overall vehicle mode, when you start comparing other aspects, is actually smaller than his Earthrise, or than his Siege version. Like I said, it's just only obvious when you start comparing the two. But as you can see, that's not officially how his gun stores. You can just kind of push it up in there. But much like Ironhide, you can definitely store it in vehicle mode. And but it does retain the same functionality. It doesn't have this clip like this, so like it has to plug in like that on top. But the light bar is removable like it was on the Siege version. Let's go ahead and see how him and Ironhide stack up to the crew. And so here are the boys flanking the big boss himself. But you can see how they look with Hound and Wheeljack. And overall, I know, guys, that, Kingdom's getting ready to drop its pretty big Beast Wars hammer on everybody. But for the time being, we can still kind of enjoy a little bit of the OG crew. And I gotta say, they look extremely nice together. So first off, guys, we're going to look at Prowl here. One thing that's interesting about this guy is that the Earthrise version seems simplified in terms of its detail, whereas the Siege version has got a lot of stuff that should still be on this guy. Like, you notice the yellow marks and everything, those should be on his Earth mode version. Another thing that I think is not really doing it for me is the head, because over here, these crests, they're a little bit thinner, but they are flared out more, whereas on him, you can tell they're just a lot thicker. Now, that's probably due to the fact of it being a physically smaller figure in vehicle mode. So here we're looking at the back of Prowl's feet, because we're still in that whole pattern of being, interconnectivity between certain figures and such. Well, you look back here on his heels, that's where they are, and they've designed them as such you can just slightly turn him down. And with that being said, you can definitely make him taller, along with all the other fantastic weaponizer ports that this boy has that are just, you know, standard for this trilogy. So here you can see some of the finer points of differences between these two guys. Now, one thing that a lot of people were sad about was the fact that he can no longer wield his hammer with the might of a thunder god, but instead now he's having to use his giant shield like Captain America, just batting dudes around. However, that being said, if you want to give this guy the hammer, you definitely can do that. But at that point, honestly, it's just getting a little too much in-game up in here. Because we all do love the hammer. And another thing that we do have to take in mind is, guys, this is accurate to his cartoon model. This is the gun he had. But if him having what seems to be a lack of firepower is seriously eating your lunch, there is a fix for that. Ha! Ultra Megatron, eat your heart out. You've only got 3 barrels on one side. Our boy here is rocking 4, plus his pistol. So eat it.
Don't leave me, Soundwave.
I do like whenever he is using his shield in this configuration, since they went ahead and made this a, you know, a shield and a weapon at the same time. So one of the other things about this is that when you flip it around the other way, it kind of looks like a giant blade. Now, the one thing about the configuration and the way it's intended to be used is this giant post. You can obviously see there's kind of a weird gap thing going on, right? So this is where we're going to use the engineering to our benefit because, again, you know, this is the part of his vehicle mode that this part attaches to. So if you want to have a more flush fit to the arm, and now it's more secure to his arm, although it is a little bit low slung right there, it just depends which look suits you better.
He's on a hoverboard!
So here, if you want to use his shield as a hoverboard and get all Back to the Future up in this piece, you definitely could. However, because of his big clodhoppers, you have to fold everything out, so it's not able to maintain its surfboard shape. But it is kind of a cool little deal if you want to have Ironhide looking like he's riding a hoverboard. Oh, indeed, the boys are all together and they are looking good. And Ironhide and Prowl are no exception because they fit right in just how they need to. They're not masterpieces by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not supposed to be. They're doing their own thing by fitting in with everybody else. Collectively, it's a great set, guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed us taking a look at Ironhide and Prowl. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.
Not so fast, Soundwave. You fool! And ready to give Megatron a nickel-knuckle sandwich.